Podcasts are hot right now. How do I know? Well, you're listening to one right now, aren't you? But you might be wondering, how on earth do I get my voice out there and start my own podcast? It all seems so intimidating. Between hosting and platforms and monetization, it can get real complicated real quick. Well, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We started this podcast over 2 years ago, not knowing clue one on how to do it. So how do we do it? We did it with Anchor. Anchor is the free podcast app with creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on all the platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And everybody likes money, right? Well, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So go right now, download the free Anchor app, or go to Anchor FM to get started. It's the eCommerce Minute, your daily dose of e-commerce, tech, and retail news with your host, John Suder, Bart, Mroz, and Brittany Blackman. The eCommerce Minute is a production of SUMO Heavy, a digital commerce consulting firm located in Brooklyn, New York, and Philadelphia. Find us on the web at sumoheavy.com. It's eCommerce Minute episode 705.
In today's episode, David's Bridal launches virtual stylist and appointment experience.
Before the pandemic forced governments to close down non-essential stores, David's Bridal was investing heavily in its overall technology and marketing strategies. Back in January, the wedding retailer announced its chatbot Zoe and named its first chief digital experience officer, not named Zoe, in December. Now they've taken their technology a step further. David's Bridal has introduced virtual stylist and virtual appointment offer. The company developed these features in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, but it intends to continue offering them going forward. Consumers can text David's Bridal Stylist to advise on available dresses, measurements, undergarments, and other needs. The team at David's Bridal has made a devoted group of stylists available to support customers with any wedding-related inquiries they may have. With this launch, over 300 stylists from across the country will be accessible to customers to guide, inspire, personalize, and help bring their wedding vision to life. In an effort to create memorable experiences for each and every bride and bridal party, this group of stylists will be by their side through the entire shopping journey, from engagement to bachelorette party to wedding day and beyond. With the launch of the virtual stylist and appointment experience, David's will provide customers with options on how they would like to engage with experts, depending on their specific needs. Customers can text the stylist to get advice on at-home measuring, finding a dress that's ready to ship now, and figuring out which undergarments work best with each gown. Customers will also have the option to fill out a style quiz prior to the appointment, providing the stylist with information to make the shopping experience more personalized and customized. The stylist will have access to favorited styles and design preferences, accessories that complement the look, shipping preferences, and event timelines. And of course, with stores beginning to open every week, customers can now book an appointment for an upcoming date at any of the David's Bridal 300-plus store locations. The company's goal is to have its entire store fleet operational by June 1st, 2020. So, Bart, well, this is where you and I chime in and say, look at all the things you can do over the internet and over the phone that you don't need to go to.
And then people are like, oh, I have to go in the store. You're like, no. You don't actually have to do that.
Not really. Don't have to go to the doctor. Nope.
You don't have to go. So my wife had to go into the office this morning. One of the most efficient office visits ever. Ready? 30 minutes. And she had 6 different things done. This is the most efficient ever. All of a sudden you go, we can be efficient about this. We don't have to be in long lines and wait for things. It's amazing. Doctor visits have to change.
Yeah, we've talked at length about this in some of our other podcasts. The David's Bridal thing is what it is. I really don't have a lot of commentary on it, but this basically points out in that, what's the thing I like to say? Crisis presents opportunities, or don't let a good crisis go to waste. There's so many things that are becoming hyper efficient now just because of this nonsense. It's suddenly people are reevaluating, going, I don't need to drive to the doctor. I don't need to drive to the grocery store. I don't need to go to an office. I could do all this stuff from my home. I think the world, for obvious reasons, are going to change. But I think particularly in certain business instances, we're going to see so many more of these types of efficiencies that will come into play and not go away, but more or less come to be commonplace. I, for one, applaud it.
No, I mean, you're hoping that stuff won't go back, right? There's a lot of things that we have to rethink: our working environment, our living environments, like everything, right? But it's efficiency.
Is there any stats, or has anybody heard about a lot of weddings being canceled or postponed? Or what are people like, okay, we're into wedding season. What's the vibe out there? Like, what do you hear from people getting married?
People have, the venues are postponing it, so you have no choice. So either you just get married on a small thing and you figure it out later. One of my buddies, they postponed it till next year. They basically just called up and said, we're going to do this next year. You can actually get married online now. There's places like that.
There you go, Ding.
But
my cousin postponed his till next year too.
The biggest thing is like really just the venues and stuff like that. Nobody's going to be really that open, right? So if you have a wedding when they were talking about this a month ago in June, you could have kind of did it, right? But now it's looking probably not. What do you do? All these people like scramble around and, wedding venues. I got married last year. So we know if you want something really, really bad, they're taken up a year or two in advance.
I saw this one story about how these people in Australia ended up having their wedding anyway in the beginning of March, and 37 people from the wedding contracted coronavirus.
Oh, that's awful.
Nightmare. But the bride and groom didn't. 37 people did, but the bride and groom somehow got off scot-free. I don't know how.
That is awful.
Yeah.
The reason that going back to my original question, there have been some people, and of course you get those people that are very active in social media. I think there was one, I don't know if you guys saw it, it was a Philly thing. They were getting married last month. They still wanted to get married, so they had their reception on their rooftop, and they had a drone flying above them so that the wedding party could watch. It was actually well done.
There's some of them, I think, people that are on the street. People got creative about to do it. It's just like all of a sudden you went from a huge wedding to really, really tiny weddings.
And you know what? They're better.
True.
No offense. Your wedding. If I was getting married, I wouldn't do that.
Dude, we made it as small as possible.
It was pretty big.
Under 100 is pretty tiny compared to some people.
Definitely top 5 weddings, so I'll give you that. All right. Let's get out of this one. Do a little stat time. In a survey of more than 470 couples by The Knot, 96% said they were rescheduling their weddings, and of those couples, 65% are pushing their weddings to later in 2020, while the rest are undecided or opting for a 2021 date. Data from The Knot shows that only 4% of couples have outright canceled their weddings as an indication that the industry will thrive post-pandemic. Yes, weddings are not going anywhere. It's just a little delayed. I just feel for the catering people and the catering halls and all these people that have to pay their rent and sit on their hands and wait until everything comes back to quote-unquote normal. You guys got anything else?
Nope.
All right, that's your e-commerce minute for today. We'll see you on the internet tomorrow. That's it for today's show. If you like the show, do us a favor and subscribe or leave us a review on iTunes. And don't forget, you can now listen to the e-commerce minute on your Amazon device. Just add e-commerce minute to your flash briefing. And finally, if you have a comment or suggestion or just want to say hi, find us on social media at SUMO Heavy.